Welcome back to MystikaliSol. My name is Lisa, and I am so glad you joined me today to talk about a pretty hot button issue, or it's just like a trendy topic: empaths and narcissists, right? And so I titled this video "The Empathic Narcissist" or "A Narcissistic Empath." And what do I mean by that? Well, first, let's talk about, what is, I have my notes. What is an empath? What is a narcissist? I'm not a psychologist. I'm a behavior analyst. So, terms like empath and narcissist, those are mentalistic or like mentalism. So, in the field of behavior analysis, we really focus on actions, behaviors, like tangible thoughts, rather than, putting a label on somebody who, thinks a certain way, or, perhaps they engage in behaviors, but, the big difference between psychology and behavior analysis is that psychology really focuses on the thinking of the individual, whereas behavior analysis focuses on the behavior. And the reason why I bring this up is because, I think that it's very easy for people to, label somebody as something because we want to, we want to differentiate, we want to discriminate, we want to, have a nice little box that we can check, so that we can kind of like move on in the system, and we can move them through the system because we know who they are and we know how to act because, if they're an empath, they're good, but if they're a narcissist, they're bad. So what is an empath? An empath, I think, is somebody who feels the feelings of others, is able to, sense when somebody is sad, is able to sense when somebody is joyful, and sort of like anticipate the direction of the interaction based on how somebody else is feeling, right? An empath might also, get overwhelmed in large crowds and things because they're picking up on so many different energies from people. I think that's kind of just like a short description of an empath. And a narcissist is somebody who is completely self-involved, lacks awareness, or lacks the emotional bandwidth to accommodate other people's feelings. I probably should have closed the windows. I'm still trying to find like the best place to have the videos. Like the lighting is weird in other places, or like, there's like a lot of traffic noise, so I apologize for that. So yeah, a narcissist, and this is just my own definitions. I didn't look up definitions. I literally just wrote what is a narcissist, and I'm on here kind of going from the top of my head. So, again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't diagnose people. So, this is just kind of like my opinion. So a narcissist is somebody who basically their thought, speech, and action is always in service to self. I think that's kind of like a summary of what a narcissist is that they don't have the emotional bandwidth really to accommodate other people's feelings, and their thought, speech, and action is really only in service to self. So, so when I'm thinking about, why I was thinking about an empathic narcissist or a narcissistic empath, I'm thinking about myself. I'm thinking about my own life. And in my healing journey, I really had to face the narcissistic tendencies that I was expressing, that were evoked in situations where, I was coming from a purely sort of egoic or egotistical place. So how does somebody become an empath, or how does somebody become a narcissist? I think it's really important to learn your birth chart. I think it's also really important to look into your human design to better understand the components of your personality that you were born with. I think that's kind of like a first step to understanding, what did you come in with in this current incarnation, right? The reason why I think that's important, because, I think a lot of us, besides our astrology, besides our human design, we have families, we have caregivers who are themselves narcissists, right? We have caregivers who really kind of didn't give us what we needed in terms of love and respect and encouragement. And obviously it's different for everybody to a greater or lesser extent. I think that, some people are, traumatized, completely traumatized, and have to, figure everything out on their own. And then other people are just sort of like mildly neglected, right? And this breeds narcissism. If you are a child and your needs are not being met, and your emotional needs are not being met, maybe your physical needs are being met, but your mental and emotional needs are not being met. And so you sort of have to meet your own emotional needs. You have to mentally figure out, how can I get what I need from this situation? And so a narcissist is born. A narcissist also comes out of a society that is extremely narcissistic. Our society is very much like, as much as people like to be like, oh, love and happiness and giving, and oh, I donated to the food drive, and I champion this or that cause. A lot of times that's really kind of just signaling to other people that you're a good person, which is also feeding the ego, right? But the nuts and bolts of this country, in the United States of America, the fact that land was stolen from indigenous Americans, the fact that the economy was built off of the enslaved labor of people, the highly competitive nature of a capitalistic society, in particular American society, dog eat dog, do for self. The American dream, the concept of the American dream is sort of a narcissistic concept, because a lot of times the American dream is coming here to step over, to benefit from the blood that was spilled, that still has not been accounted for, right? So these things are in themselves narcissistic. I'm going to come to this country so I can get a better education, I can give my kids a better life, I can get a house, I can live comfortably. These are all nobody's coming here to say, oh, I want to help bring about justice. That's not why people come here. So, like, the concept of the American dream is sort of like a fundamentally narcissistic concept, if you really kind of think about it. So yeah. So to label people, in the mental health community, we want to label people, oh yes, you have narcissistic personality disorder, or people aren't labeled empath, but maybe you could go to a psychologist and be like, I pick up the energies of others, I feel so much, other people don't feel as much as me, and maybe they will, give you your empath sticker. Who knows? I don't know. Not that I'm knocking psychology. I'm very skeptical of Western practices, Western science, Western medicine in general. So even though I was trained in behavior analysis, and I do have my certification as a BCBA, part of what I'm trying to do in my private practice, if you're interested, look in the description box for my services, is incorporating, intuitive guidance, and really kind of tapping into what the person's natural strengths are. Not just like, oh, we want to reduce this behavior, so we're going to do this, this, and this to reduce the behavior, and we're going to, we want to increase functional skills, so, we're going to do this, this, and this to increase functional skills. Like, I don't think that people are programmable robots, and, I don't think that it's necessarily beneficial to come from an entirely sort of devoid of emotion or spirit. I think that it's important to take in consideration the person's spirit. And that means the person should enjoy learning and enjoy what they're doing. And anyway, I digress. So, and that goes with therapy too, right? Like, you can talk, but, unless you're really kind of cultivating what's inside the person in terms of awakening their spirit and aligning them with experiences that nourish their spirit, you're really kind of just on a hamster wheel. And I think that's why, sometimes you see people who are in therapy for decades and they're really not getting anywhere, because you're not going to fundamentally change your life. You're not going to bring yourself from point A to point B on a spiritual level. And when I say a spiritual level, I mean what is connecting you with the divine source of the universe. You're not going to do that by sitting in an office and talking about your problems. You do that by literally practicing, things that nourish your spirit. But I digress. This video is about the empathic narcissist or the narcissistic empath. So, we're all capable of empathy. We're all capable of being narcissistic. Really what, I think that a person needs to look at is, okay, what are my thoughts, speech, and action? Are they in service to my ego, or are they in service to my higher self? What is the constructive value of my thoughts, speech, and action? What is, and I say this not to say that my thought, speech, and action is completely removed from my ego. I'm and totally in service to my higher self. No, not at all. I'm a work in progress, just like you guys, just like anybody, out there in the world. Again, healing is a journey. It's not a destination. I am not a guru. I'm not even a teacher. I'm here to maybe just like remind you of things, or, just to kind of connect on some level out there. And I just have these things inside me and I feel like I need to share them. So I'm coming on here to do that. But, so we're all capable of, being able to feel what others feel. We're all capable also of being in service to our ego, right? So when I mentioned looking into your birth chart or looking into your human design, what does that have to do with anything, right? Well, I do believe that, you come in here with a blueprint. You find that blueprint through your astrological birth chart. You can also further identify helpful things. Like, you can further identify who you are through your human design. For example, I'll use myself as an example. So I'm an Aries sun, I'm a Leo moon, and I have a Pisces stellium, okay? My Jupiter is in Cancer. So I have the capability, or I have within me, to be a narcissist as well as to be an empath. I don't know if you guys know anything about astrology, but, so in Aries, I mean, all Aries sun have a tendency towards narcissism. It is our blueprint. I am is the statement for the Aries, right? So for a lot of times, an Aries sun will understand the world through how they're experiencing it, right? This isn't the case with all astrological placements. If you're an Aries sun with Aries as your first house, or Aries rising sign, even more so, right? That's super annoying. And again, the Leo moon, the Leo fixed fire, is very much about, they have a tendency to be kind of over dramatic, self-involved. This is part of, maybe you would say some of the negative attributions for a Leo, but, as a Leo moon, I definitely have a tendency to kind of like take things personally or be over dramatic. I have my little cheat sheet on the wall. So yeah, for the Leo, the saying is, I will, okay? Ambitious, authoritative, competitive, leader, proud, right? So some of these things, they could, they could, if the person is unhealed. I should also point that out. So any sign, if they're unhealed, may have a tendency towards narcissism. I think that's also, but there are certain signs that even more so the narcissism may be pronounced if the person is unhealed and acting from their ego, right? From their wounded ego. Okay, and then the Pisces stellium in my chart. So my Venus, Mercury, and Mars, they're all in Pisces. And Pisces is very much humanitarian, go with the flow. What else is Pisces? Spiritual, dreamer, humble, introvert, impressionable, charitable, right? So these are kind of all sort of empathic traits. And having 3 signs in this placement, really means that those aspects that I just mentioned, charitable, dedicated, humble, idealist, peaceful, these things might express themselves in, the way that, like, let's say for Venus, the things that I value, how I love, how I am loved, how I show love. For Mercury, it could be in my communication, right? For Mars, it's in my action. My actions might have a tendency to be a little bit more introverted, in trying to maintain peace in a situation. Not always, because I'll tell you, like, if my Aries takes over, it's a wrap. But yeah, so I think it's really important to kind of know your placements. Again, with my Jupiter expands anything it touches, right? So with my Jupiter in Cancer is sensitive, sympathetic, introverted, intuitive, calm, conscientious. So those are also sort of like akin with being an empath. And since my Jupiter is in Cancer, that means these things are magnified in my personality, right? So that's why I say, a narcissistic empath or an empathic narcissist. The choice, then it's my own personal will of what I'm expressing. It's to what extent am I healing? To what extent am I choosing mindfulness over reactivity? That's how either the narcissistic tendencies will be expressed or the empathic tendencies will be expressed. This isn't like, oh, I'm an empath, oh, I'm a narcissist, like, yeah, I'm going to just cut this out and that's who I am. Like, it doesn't work that way. We have all these energies kind of flowing through us, and I think it's important to kind of have a better understanding of your personality blueprint in order to identify kind of like where you may have weak spots or tendencies towards narcissism and where you have, strengths, tendencies towards empathic behavior. Right. With the human design, something that the human design, do I have my human design? I do. I have it somewhere. Here it is. Okay. I just want to show you guys, because if you guys are not familiar with human design, I don't know. So I drew this. This is my human design. So the colored areas are the, what are they called? The centers, the centers. And this is much like chakra. They're almost like very similar, or even, I guess, they would be associated with chakra zones. The colored in areas are the areas that are activated, or that, that I came into this incarnation, with. These are the elements that I came into this incarnation with. The empty area is an area that is undefined, which means I am susceptible to programming, I'm susceptible to conditioning in the open area. In the colored in area, because it's defined, I'm much less susceptible and much more fixed, which means, to be defined isn't necessarily a better thing. And to be undefined isn't necessarily a worse thing. Actually, to be defined may mean that you're more fixed and therefore not as open to receiving wisdom, right? Like if you have an open area and you're conditioned and you break out of that conditioning and you see like, oh, I want to take in this and I want to reject that, you're much more likely to sort of make your own blueprint of self. Whereas if it's defined, that's a part of your human nature. So you have to very mindfully and conscientiously decide, okay, am I going to express that part of myself or am I not going to express that part of myself? It's the same thing with your astrology though. Like, just because you're born with a certain placement doesn't necessarily mean that you have to express yourself in that way. You decide how you express yourself. You decide, what elements you're going to take from what you were given naturally and what elements, you want to maybe do things a little differently. Okay, so right here we have the solar plexus. Oh, wait. Heart center. Okay, so right here is the heart center, and the heart center is willpower, egoism, material world, self-worth. And this part of me is activated. I have the 51 and the 26 gate activated. And if I look at the 51, it's the arousing, can respond to shock disorder through recognition and adaptation. There to be shocking. Willpower, ready for battle. Courage, can lead those who are ready to look for answers beyond the mundane material world, looking towards universal love. Need to be first. So this is an element that I came into this incarnation with, and therefore to others, when they see me expressing this part of myself, they may interpret that or perceive me as being maybe narcissistic or egotistical. When in reality, this is what I am meant to express, or, this is a part of me that I am supposed to model for others, but hopefully modeling from a healed place, right? If I'm unhealed and I'm expressing from an unhealed place, it could very well be narcissistic and egotistical. Right, so, I don't know if I need to kind of go on about that, but again, some people have stronger egos than other. I'm not saying that to sound like, people who have defined ego centers are supposed to be egotistical. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying the concept of having a stronger ego is a thing. Some people are here to express their ego, to express their strong ego, and for others to be inspired and be like, maybe take pieces from that person and incorporate it in themselves. Wow, they have the strength to do this or that. I can also have the strength to do this or that, right? So I think I've made that pretty clear. But let me know in the comments if I'm not making sense or if this is unclear. What else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, so even if you are born with a defined ego, that is not an excuse to be egotistical and to be self-centered. It is so important to practice mindfulness. If you don't have a meditative practice, I would highly recommend that you do practice a few times throughout your day to just breathe, to just sit quietly. You can close your eyes, you can leave your eyes open, look at something in nature. Just being present. Feeling your body, letting your thoughts come and go. The more that you practice mindfulness, the more that you are able to come back to the present moment at any given time. The more that you're able to respond from a place of consciousness rather than reacting from a place of unconsciousness, right? So if you're acting off of how you've been conditioned, if you're acting from a place where you've been hurt, you fear that you may be hurt again, any kind of like guilt, shame, doubt, if you're acting from these sort of low vibe places, it's very likely that you are going to be expressing yourself from an egotistical place. Sorry, I have an itch on my foot. So ask yourself, is my thought, speech, or action in service to my ego or in service to my higher self? I want to give a shout out right now to the Healing Chamber. I believe her name is Tamara Chanel. You can find her on Instagram. I think she might also have a YouTube channel, but she posts really helpful content to her Instagram. Again, her name is The Healing Chamber. I am Tamara Chanel are her two Instagrams. I will link it down in the description box. She gave a really good talk live about ego versus God self. And it sort of inspired this video, although I had been thinking about making a video in regards to the empathic narcissist or the narcissistic empath because, I was really kind of like fed up with this whole culture of like, I'm a professional victim, I'm an empath, and oh my God, the narcissists, they hurt me, or, just, I mean, there's people who are narcissists, but because they're passive and they have this holier than thou way about them, like, there is such a thing as being a covert narcissist, and I think a lot of times people are covert narcissists and they want to point the finger at other people. So again, there's a lot of finger pointing. We all have to take a look at ourselves. Like, we all need to point the finger back at ourselves and be like, okay, so what am I doing in service to my higher self? What am I doing that's in service to my ego? You know what I mean? Like, what is the intention behind this thought, speech, or action, right? What is it in service to? What is the constructive value? These are all really important questions that I think we should be asking ourselves at this time. Another thing that I wrote down that I wanted to bring up is don't make the mistake of giving your energy away and thinking that is the way of the empath. Oh, I sacrifice myself for others, or people pleasing. I think that we're all sort of coming out of like, if I'm not saying yes to what everybody wants, or if I'm not like bending over backwards for other people, I'm being selfish or I'm not a good person. No. A lot of times I think if you are a people pleaser or if you're self-sacrificing, that actually is in service to the ego because you're fearful of maybe the judgment of others, or maybe you feel subconsciously, oh gosh, like, if I'm not bending over backwards for people, then I'm a bad person, I'm a narcissist, like I'm egotistical. And no, I don't think that that's true. I think being in service of your higher self is understanding the importance of self-care, of self-love, of reciprocity, of, understanding yourself, knowing yourself, being able to, see how you can't give to others if you are running on empty. And not to kind of like spread yourself so thin that, you're going to fall apart yourself. So, I think that's another misconception, that you have to give. Give when you're ready. Give when you're strong. Give when, you are also in alignment with your highest truth. It might take some time for healing, right? You might need to take the time to heal. And, going towards a path of healing sometimes means going within, listening to spirit, listening to your higher self, listening to the divine, which means being quiet and not running around here like giving, but just sitting and being quiet. Yeah, so what else do I have? Oh, yeah, okay. So then just like, the higher self chooses love over fear, chooses growth instead of lack, chooses evolution instead of stagnancy. So those are, a few of the things that you can ask yourself. Is this love over fear? Is this growth instead of lack? Right? Is this evolution, the evolution of my soul versus the stagnancy of my soul? And then you have to want to change. Again, it's always free will. Like, that's the beauty of the earth, which is really, it's a playground, but it's also, where is a playground? It's a school, right? It's the earth is a school for our soul to evolve. And, if you don't want to change, right, then, it is what it is. Maybe the next lifetime you'll want to change and do things differently. But if you do, if you do want to take a look at yourself and kind of see things from, the observer, rather than, this person's making me feel this way. Another thing that I wanted to mention before I get off here is, I heard somebody say, what is it? Feelings are great mentors, but poor masters. No, feelings are great teachers, but poor masters. And I think that was from King Lit, who you can find him on YouTube, King Lit. He's an astrologer. And I saw he posted that the other day, and I was like, yeah, I agree with that. I'm very much about my feelings. Like, again, I told you what's in my birth chart. So, a lot of times we'll kind of go from how we feel, which isn't better or worse than how you think. You don't want to think yourself into a tizzy, and you don't want to feel yourself into a tizzy, right? Feelings magnetize, thoughts electrify, but don't trust, your feelings or your thoughts to kind of lead you to where you need to go. It's your connection to the divine. It's your connection to higher self, which is removed from the feelings, which is removed from the thoughts, right? You take out the feelings, you take out the thoughts. Not to ignore your thoughts and your feelings. I mean, those are elements of you that are going to help you through your life journey, but they're not meant to be your master. Your higher self has to be your master. And, if somebody makes you feel a certain way, or, if, let's say, you're dealing with a narcissist and, oh my gosh, this person is manipulative and gaslighting and this and that and the third, I got to cut them out of my life. Oh, okay. I mean, sure, cut them out of your life. But the person is also trying to teach you something about yourself. The situation is trying to teach you something about yourself. Why are you bringing this energy into your life? What is the service to you? What do you need to learn from it? It could be trying to teach you how to handle yourself with dignity, with self-respect, how to stand up for yourself, how to stand your ground, how to have boundaries, right? A lot of times these situations that we're put in teach us about boundaries and not like taking on other people's stuff, right? To kind of like fill up our cup or to help to make us feel a certain type of way, or, trauma bonding, right? So all of these things like are really kind of meant to teach us more about ourselves for our soul's growth. And in order for our soul to grow, we must learn the lessons and incorporate what we've learned into our lives, such that we don't keep repeating the same mistakes, right? So that's all I have for you guys today about that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like my earrings, you can find them on my Etsy. I linked it down in the description box. And if you're interested in my mentorship services, I also put those details in the description box. You can go to my website, MystikaliBCBA.com, and I have my BCBA services as well as my mentorship services. Right now, I think the site's down. I'm still kind of doing maintenance on it, but you can always email me at MystikaliBCBA@gmail.com, or you can just, message me on YouTube or whatever, and we can link up. So, I hope that you guys all enjoyed the video and have a great day, and I will talk to you in the next video. Okay, bye.